There's a lot that we could complain about, but I mean, you've got to give Meghan Markle some credit for cheering us all up there, because you've got nothing to do but laugh at that, really, haven't you?
Yeah, the thing I don't understand about Meghan Markle with these constant attempts to reinvent herself with these reality TV shows. I mean, I remember, I got into Suits a while back.
Yeah.
I actually thought she was, half decent in it. I thought she was a half decent actress.
Yeah.
I don't know why she doesn't do that.
I know. I presume it's beneath her now, isn't it?
Well, that must. I mean, that's the only explanation. Because I mean, surely if she put herself forward for various just straightforward acting roles, she snapped up, wouldn't she?
You would have thought so, but I mean, maybe
be far less demeaning than this what she's putting.
Yeah. I mean,
and the rest of us at the moment.
This kind of poking about with, pouring oil into hummus and poking some sort of bread and going, I've got new friends. It's just bizarre. It seems to me very odd.
It's odd. Yeah, no, I don't get it. But
and no sign of Harry either.
No, well, obviously there's a few people have been noticing that for a few months now, haven't they? But
absolutely right.
Wait to see how that pans out.
Let's talk about our favourite subject, Sir Keir Starmer. He's off in making the wrong kind of headlines again in Madeira. He can't sort of get a break, can he? Not that I want him to get a break, but he kind of keeps doing the wrong thing. He goes there, jumps the queue, gets booed by the people. I mean, he must be having such a miserable time.
Yeah, I mean, you said you don't want him to have a break. I mean, I'm the opposite. I do want him to have a break, and I think he deserves a break. Obviously, he hasn't had.
Well, we all deserve a break, to be honest.
Well, you think we all deserve a break from him? No, I mean he hasn't been away since for virtually the whole last year, because obviously the Labour were preparing for the election.
Well, yeah, but he has been away though, hasn't he? Quite a lot.
Well, he has, but I mean, in fairness, he has been working. I mean, we've talked about this. Now, why he's been doing that, doing his international jet setting to that extent is beyond me, but he's not been having a jolly. But on this one, no. I mean, I think, firstly, he deserved a holiday. Obviously, last time he tried to have a holiday, he had to come back because of the riots. Obviously, he's had the recent bereavement within his family. I think this stuff about him jumping the queue, I'm sorry. I mean, every single world leader who ever goes on some sort of holiday has some form of VIP treatment. Obviously, security is always a consideration. Yeah,
but it's a toboggan, crappy ride in Madeira. I mean, it's not like he's getting a great kind of, he's not getting free Taylor Swift tickets or something. It's one of these, people are queuing up for a long time. It's probably not that great. Why is he even bothering?
Well, you'd have to ask him. I mean, maybe he's got some. Maybe he's a fan of tobogganing. I've got no idea.
I mean, somebody did say.
It wouldn't be something I was in. Although I have seen some people saying, some people who've done it who I know have said, "Oh no, it's great." I mean, didn't seem that great to me.
Yeah. Last time I saw something like that, I think it was in Gran Canaria, and at the end of it, there was a bloke trying to sell you a timeshare, and that's kind of how it works. But I mean, somebody said...
Picking up a cheap timeshare, maybe.
Somebody said to me, only Keir Starmer would go somewhere for a tobogganing holiday and end up in Madeira, because tobogganing, generally speaking, is on snow, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, anyway, so long as, as I said, so long as he managed to switch off for a week or so and have a bit of a...
But he's coming back to some more problems, isn't he? Because, I mean, I had a very long conversation about grooming gangs with John Rentoul, so I don't particularly want to retread that. But that is a problem for him, and Elon Musk is a problem for him, even though, not all of what Elon Musk says is obviously going to be, provable or true even. But nevertheless, the sort of the noise around it all is quite bad. And now we've got on the front of the Times shoving the social care plan back another 3 years, which is also not great, and a lot of people within his own party, and you've written about this, not very happy with him.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wrote about it before. Just the last thing I wrote just before Christmas was that people are now seriously having discussions about if Labour's fortunes don't improve, if the government's performance doesn't improve, and most importantly, if Keir Starmer's personal performance, doesn't improve, then they are now starting to think the unthinkable, and they are now starting to think we may have to make a change a lot sooner than we thought we'd have to. I mean, I think you pick up a couple of things. I mean, firstly, on Musk, Musk is a thorn in Starmer's side, but I think you saw it actually yesterday with the whole grooming gangs thing. I mean, Musk supporters talk a lot about Musk derangement syndrome and how people like me in the mainstream media become obsessed with Musk. It's quite clear now that for reasons I don't quite understand Elon Musk is suffering from Starmer derangement syndrome. I mean, we're getting this every week now. He's coming up and attacking Starmer in these ludicrous ways. You know, I mean, you don't want to get into this. He said he didn't want to get into the detail about the grooming scandal, but I mean, there is an absolute scandal there. It's absolutely right that, in my view, that we should have a full public inquiry. I've been writing about this for about 10 years now. Elon Musk hasn't been writing about it or talking about it for 10 years. Elon Musk doesn't know where Rochdale, Oldham, these places are. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about the victims. He just wants to use it as an excuse to have a dig at Keir Starmer and drum up some grand conspiracy theory. And I think that whilst it is obviously politically damaging on one level for Keir Starmer, I think we've got Musk here dancing away on the screen. I think the fact that he's going so over the top with his attacks now, I think as we go through the year, if he continues with that, then I think it's going to be a sort of a law of diminishing returns.
Yeah, it becomes counterproductive, isn't it?
In terms of the impact it has. And what really annoyed me yesterday, because I was commenting on this, you know, there is an absolute scandal there, and there is a reason why Labour ministers and the Labour government are not wanting to open this inquiry. And it's not because of some great conspiracy theory to protect Keir Starmer. It's for the same reason we've seen this issue not investigated for years and years, indeed decades. And that is because politicians, particularly Labour politicians, are scared of upsetting and offending what they see as their Muslim base and their liberal base. Yeah. And they just want, you know, and if this situation was reversed, if we had had a situation in which almost exclusively white men had been abusing black, Muslim, Asian girls on this scale, the Labour Party and Labour politicians would be in the forefront demanding a full public inquiry. Jess would be out there. Jess, by the way, whose credentials in terms of actually defending up until this point, in terms of sort of defending, you know, and highlighting the abuse of women and girls, are unimpeachable. Yeah. But the fact that
until now they were.
Until now, exactly. And the fact that she's now drawing back, again, is because of the simple politics of the situation. We've just had a general election in which Jess Phillips herself, her majority was slashed because Labour started to lose the votes of significant sections of the Muslim population. That's what's at the heart of this. Race issue, not some great conspiracy theory about protecting Keir Starmer. And people like Musk, who do not understand these issues, have never had any interest in them, would do us all a great service if they just either shut up about it or at least went away, did some basic reading, got the basic fact, and then used his platform to actually highlight what is a genuine scandal in a proper way, because this does need to be addressed now.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with you. Listen, I think it puts pressure on Starmer up to a point, but if he continues in the vein that he is in, then it will, as I say, as you said, become counterproductive. But I think also it's right to include Starmer in that whole kind of view of the world that Labour has about why they don't want to prosecute, why they don't want to investigate, why they'd rather not actually go there because it might be counterproductive for their supporters and all of that. And I think Gordon Brown fed into it as well, didn't he? So, I mean, you've got this whole kind of background of people being frightened of being accused of being racist, therefore allowing crimes to be continually carried out.
I think that's absolutely right. I think you've put your finger on it. This is exactly where the focus needs to be, and where people like Keir Starmer, and in fact almost all Labour politicians, need to be held to account. In fact, politicians across the board, because let's not forget, the Tories had 14 years.
The Tories weren't any better.
Specifically were asked to hold an inquiry in Oldham, specifically refused themselves. We hear a lot, I bang on about it quite right, about the evils of racism and evils of institutional racism. What this is almost exactly the same, but in reverse. Yeah. And we've seen it. It's almost like the victims are being penalised again. The reason they were abused over such a horrific period was because of this inverse racism and this fear that if this issue was tackled, the people tackling it would be accused of racism. And now they're being denied the inquiry they deserve for exactly the same reason. And this is the other thing about Labour and Labour politicians on this. Again, they bang on all the time about racism, right, and racial crimes, and rightly. These were racial offences. These girls were targeted because they were white. There's no doubt about that.
No.
The individual inquiries we've had have made very, very clear that if you remember, one of the first politicians to actually start to highlight this, going way back, was Jack Straw, who stood up and said a lot of Asian men, a lot of Muslim men, see these girls as what he could describe as white meat, as easy meat. And he got absolutely attacked, absolutely slated for saying that, but he was absolutely right. So the racial component for this is running all the way through it. That is what's at the heart of this, not some mad Muskian conspiracy theory. And that's why we do actually need a proper inquiry so we can actually finally, shine a light on this. Because this is one of, if not the biggest criminal scandals in
and it won't, and it won't sort of work if Keir Starmer just continues to ignore it and Jess Phillips continues to ignore it, and they hope that it all goes away, because it's not going away this time.
It's not going to go away. It's never gone away. They've got to get out ahead of this now. This saga is going to run and run and run and run and run. Their political opponents, we saw it, how cynically, all the Tories were suddenly lining up. Kemi Badenoch suddenly lining up saying it's a disgrace, we need a public inquiry, although again, what they thought they were doing for the last 14 years, and the idea that we somehow have forgotten, we've all forgotten they were in power for the last 14 years is beyond me. But this is not going to go away. It's never going to go away until we actually have a proper, full, judge-led investigation.
Absolutely right. And I'm calling this the year of common sense, Dan. I know it's only just started, but I reckon there are things that are going to change, partly because of Donald Trump being president. Last night, I got sent a story from the US in the Wall Street Journal. Citigroup, Bank of America are joining several US lenders in exiting what's called the Net Zero Banking Alliance, which was something set up by the UN for all banks to kind of be involved in a net zero target. The American banks and Wall Street are saying, forget it, we're not doing it anymore, we're out, because they know that Republicans are going to put pressure on them to get out of it anyway. And I wonder whether this is going to be the beginning of some kind of net zero rowback in America, which will then also fall through over here.
Well, I mean, we were talking again before about the mutterings and concerns within Labour about Starmer's performance. I mean, I was speaking to people before Christmas about this, and this is definitely something Labour are becoming concerned about, because a number of Labour MPs, a number of ministers are starting to wonder if Ed Miliband, frankly, is just being allowed to roam out of control on this issue. And I was speaking to people, and I know Ed Miliband. I've known him for years. I always thought that despite his sort of environmental zeal, he was at heart a professional politician, somebody who was a former Labour advisor who understood the basic politics about this, that whatever you want to do about the environment, you cannot simply tax the working people of Britain into oblivion to pursue your environmental agenda. And I thought that at the back of everything, he kind of got that, and Keir Starmer got that. Now, there are a number of people within the cabinet who are starting to be nervous that they don't get it, and that frankly, this agenda is going to go out of control. We've seen the sort of litany of bad economic news, and they're basically saying, look, we're going to have to get a grip of this. So I think you're right, and I think this is going to be one of the very interesting issues of this year. You're right, it's going to be one of these issues, because I think someone within Labour is going to have to say, look, we can't keep fighting on all these fronts.
No, you can't. I mean, look at the I newspaper this morning. They've got millions will face a bill to install heat pumps in a net zero push. Starmer's government has committed to law, making it compulsory for all homes with a heat pump to be connected to the internet. They're going to make sure that devices will cost £5,690 on average after a government grant of £7,500. People aren't going to be able to wear this. They're not going to do it.
No, and this has been the problem. I mean, this has been the problem with the environmental agenda for decades now. It's a middle-class obsession being run by upper-middle-class politicians for the benefit of upper-middle-class voters, and it's ordinary working people on every turn who are being asked to pay the price. I mean, the one thing that I would say is, I was speaking to people within the trade unions just back end of last year as well. They're starting to become concerned. They're starting to become concerned about the impact on their members' jobs. They're obviously starting to become concerned about the impact on their members in terms of their own ability to afford some of these madcap schemes. So I think that will be worth noting. I'll be very interested to see where I think you're absolutely right to identify that, where we're going with this whole environmental issue in the next 12 months.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating stuff. Dan, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Dan Hodges there, commentator from The Mail on Sunday.